My sister's sinister offer, discover the haunted sect that cursed 13 victims in 30 days. Sarah hadn't seen her sister in years. So when Mia's voice echoed over the phone, shaking and barely recognizable, it sent chills down her spine. You need to listen to me, Sarah. There's a sect in Maplewood, they've cursed 13 people in just 30 days. The urgency in Mia's breath sent waves of dread crashing over Sarah's usual calm. They bring death to those who refuse. Sarah, a 34-year-old single mother in scrubs with little patience for paranoia, hung up, brushing off Mia's rambling as the result of her fragile mental state. Yet, as the days went by, unsettling whispers began to weave through the fabric of her serene suburban life. A week after their call, Mrs. Henderson, her elderly neighbor who was notorious for her chocolate chip cookies and comforting stories, vanished without so much as a goodbye. The empty window where she habitually waved felt like a gaping maw, consuming Sarah's latent concerns. Panic began simmering beneath her routine, squeezing her heart like a vice. As the nights grew longer, darkness crawled over Maplewood with ominous whispers she couldn't shake. She spotted flickering figures cloaked in mystery, gathering under the cover of trees in the park. The laughter of children faded, overtaken by her own growing anxiety, tightly knit around her heart as shadows whispered secrets she dared not uncover. Her children, Emma and Caleb, exchanged frightened glances instead of carefree giggles, their innocent wonder twisted into palpable fear. "Mom, why can't we go outside after dark?" Emma asked, her wide eyes searching for reassurance. "There's just something in the woods." Caleb nodded solemnly, gripping his sister's hand. Their fear bled into Sarah's heart, twisted like invasive vines. As she paced her dimly lit kitchen late one evening, folding laundry, one quick glance at the hallway shutter sent her heart racing. She could swore she saw someone lurking just beyond the edge, a shadowy presence, daunting yet familiar. She shook her head, dismissing it as an exhausted hallucination, until letters began arriving, ominous notes, written in crooked strokes that chilled her blood. "You have been chosen." Each sentence clawed deeper, the ink seemingly seeped in danger. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Her heart raced as uncertainty spun wild, pushing her instincts into overdrive. The ghosts of Maplewood morphed from mere tales to something solid and sinister, echoing through her thoughts. She could see it now, the bloodstained flyer in the park, its dark promise of power and freedom, but at a cost too steep, too terrible. Sleep-deprived and frantic, Sarah knew confronting Mia was her only hope, the key to wrapping around the icy grip of her hovering dread. But just as she made her mind, a subtle knock at her window sent her heart into a frantic staccato. Approaching the glass, shaken breaths escaped her lips as she peered outside. Hollow eyes and a chilling grin lit up the darkness. It was Mrs. Henderson, but she was different now. Something twisted within, and the echoed whisper of, "I'm here to tell you," lingered menacingly before silence cocooned her home. Sarah staggered back, pulse thundering in her ears, faced with a horrifying truth: everything had changed, and she had to know. Was she, too, destined to join the ranks of the sect's victims? The chill clung to Sarah like a dense fog as she staggered back from the window, her breath hitching at the sight etched behind her eyelids. What was left of Mrs. Henderson felt more like a marionette than a woman, strings pulled taut by a malicious hand. "What did they do to you?" The words barely escaped her lips, a whisper drowned in dread, the eerie silence that followed wrapped around her tighter than any blanket. Would that sinister form turn on her next? Heart racing, she fumbled for her phone. Gather information. Find Mia. But her fingers trembled as they scrolled through frantic messages, the light illuminating her increasingly haunted face. Deep inside, an instinct began to stir, a desperate urge to protect her children. Had they seen Mrs. Henderson too? What had they felt? "Mom?" Emma's small voice disrupted the heavy stillness. With Caleb beside her, they peeked into the kitchen, wide-eyed and afraid. "It's okay, honey," Sarah pushed through her rising panic, forcing a reassuring smile that felt foreign. "Just a bad dream." "But you were screaming," Caleb whispered, his eyes darting cautiously to the window Mrs. Henderson had haunted moments ago. "Mom, please, can we just go?" Emma's pleading tone flared Sarah's instincts. "Go where?" She tried to sound calm. "Where would we go?" "The forest, it feels like something's watching," Caleb murmured, dread casting shadows over his innocent face. All their little lives had unfurled under the bright sun of Maplewood. Now it was retreating, and the darkness loomed. Her heart sank as she remembered the flickering shapes, the secrets that clawed at her resolve. Then, the wind howled outside, causing the windows to rattle. Shadows danced wickedly along the walls, mirroring the chaos within her. She pulled her children closer, helplessness creeping in as their fright mingled with hers. A thought flickered, a memory surfaced, drawing from her encounter with Mrs. Henderson. "We have to leave now." The words rushed out, urgent. "Why?" "We can't leave our home," Emma started, but Sarah knew this was out of her hands. "I'm not risking it." She grabbed their jackets, pulling them from their hooks. The children looked at her, bewildered but accepting her tone. They slipped out into the soft glow of porch lights, footsteps muffled by the suffocating silence of night. Moving quickly, they crossed the lawn, Sarah's mind racing. Each crunch beneath their feet seemed unnaturally loud, the shadows twisted now, jagged, clawing. As they neared the edge of the forest, dread shot through Sarah like ice water. She scanned the tree line, memories of balmy evenings and laughter, now ghostly remnants of happier times. "Mom! Look!" Caleb tugged at her sleeve, pointing across the road. A group of figures stood under the lone streetlight, their faces obscured, but the way they swayed hinted at something that felt wrong. She couldn't breathe, instinct pushed her to retreat. "We need to go back home." As she turned, a flicker from the trees caught her eye, a figure dressed in crimson, standing unnaturally still. It felt like something was beckoning them closer, and a voice echoed in Sarah's head, "You have been chosen, run." Sarah yelled, panic igniting her feet as she grabbed the kids. They sprinted through the darkness back toward their house. But when they reached the door, it swung open slowly. No one stood in the entrance, only the void of blackness, whispering their names with an enticing lure. "Come in." Heart racing, she felt her children cling to her. "What do we do?" Emma trembled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Was this the point of no return? Would they be swallowed into the Sect's twisted grasp? A blood-curdling laugh broke through the nighttime stillness, ripped from a throat that sounded like Mrs. Henderson's. "Join us, be free." The cold fingers of fear squeezed Sarah's chest tightly as she turned to look back at the street, the eerie figures still swaying, watching, waiting. Was escaping ever truly an option? Before she could answer herself, the door began to close. "Mom!" She lunged, arms outstretched, as the darkness beckoned. The scream erupted from her lips. What waited behind the door would surely change everything. Was she brave enough to find out? The door thudded shut just before Sarah's fingertips grazed the wood. A deafening silence consumed them. Her heart hammered wildly in her chest, clawing for an escape as shadows draped heavily around their legs. She glanced down to see Caleb's small fingers intertwined with Emma's, both of them shaking like leaves in a tempest. "Mom, what do we do now?" Emma's voice shattered through the darkness, fragile as glass. As the veil of night thickened, panic struck Sarah anew. "We can't stay here." She took a step back, ice prickling her skin as she caught another glimpse of the figures beyond the streetlight, now 6, no, 7 of them, swaying like marionettes with unseen strings. Their heads turned in unison, faces obscured but intent, fixed on where Sarah stood. "Run to the trees!" she shouted, breaking into a sprint. "Go!" They dashed into the forest just as the wind shrieked its eerie chorus, branches clawing at them like skeletal fingers. The underbrush crackled, but their fear propelled them forward. Each step was treacherous, filling their lungs with the suffocating scent of damp earth and twisted fate. "Mom, they're coming!" Caleb cried as he hurried alongside Emma, the weight of his frightened breaths crashing down around her. She turned just in time to see the crimson figure emerge from the tree line. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding from shadow to shadow, the fabric of its costume fluttering like blood in water. Her breath caught. "Run! Now!" The command snapped Sarah's arms into motion, propelling them deeper into the woods. Branches snagged at their hair, their clothes an ominous reminder of the dragging pull of whatever was behind them, but as they surged further, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the trees, the sound rich with malice. "You can't escape what you are, what you've become," her mind churned. What did that mean? What had she become? She hadn't done anything wrong. But still, doubt crept in. Glancing back, she found the figures consolidating into a mass, their shadows congealing into one monstrous form. Fear pierced her heart like ice. "Mom!" Emma gasped, stumbling over a gnarled root. Sarah caught her just in time, but the delay was enough for the shadows to inch closer. From the depths of her terror, something primal surged within her. "Hang on tight." With her children grasped securely, she navigated through the labyrinth of trees. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath them. They tumbled into a hidden hollow, landing in a pile of damp leaves. The darkness enveloped them, a shroud of despair and uncertainty. Heart pounding, Sarah looked around for any sign of exit. Nothing. "Mom, they'll find us." Caleb whimpered, his wide eyes reflecting a raw, innocent fear that twisted Sarah's heart. "No, no." She pressed her hands against the earth, feeling its breath beneath her, something ancient involved in the unraveling of this night. "We have to stay quiet. They can't know we're here." Seconds felt like hours. They strained their ears, listening for any movement. The sinister laughter echoed again overhead, mingling with whispers of old chants muffled and haunting. She closed her eyes tightly, hushing her children with a finger to her lips. Then, all at once, the sound stopped. A suffocating silence swallowed the forest. Sarah opened her eyes, anxiety bleeding into confusion as she dared to peek out from the cover of leaves. What now? That's when she saw them, figures stepping lightly, gliding past the hollow, their faces finally illuminated by the faint glow of moonlight carving through the branches. They wore smiles, wide and inviting, but their eyes boasted an unnatural glow, unblinking and fierce. "Join us," one of them called softly, with a voice that echoed off the trees, a siren song that taunted her heart. "Mom, please, what do we do?" Emma dared to whisper, pressing closer to her mother, a plea that bore into Sarah's core. What had she really chosen, the action of running? She bit her lip, fear thrumming in a wicked rhythm. Perhaps it wasn't about escape after all, it was about confronting the darkness. "Whatever happens, stick with me," she murmured, bracing herself for what lay ahead. But was this decision going to be their salvation, or their doom? As the figures turned slowly back toward the shadows, something deep within Sarah trembled anew, a conviction wrapping itself around her heart. She would have to face this, not just for herself, but for her children, even if the abyss stared back at her. And in that moment of resolve, a flicker ignited in the pits of darkness, pushing her towards the unknown. What if their fate was entwined with the very secrets they were fleeing from? "Get ready," Sarah said quietly, her voice unwavering. And as the figures closed in, she felt the weight of both horror and hope merging, ready for whatever would come next. What if there were new alliances to forge? And dare she imagine what those shadows held in their gnarled hands? The whispering figures stopped, their haunting smiles widening. In the faint moonlight, their faces twisted into memories Sarah couldn't quite grasp, shapes shifting in the silence. It was as if they were shadows of those she'd once known, faces distorted but familiar, beckoning her to join the echoes of the forgotten. "Mom, I don't like this," Caleb whimpered, squeezing Emma's hand tighter. The warmth of their small digits seemed feeble against the icy grip of the approaching darkness. The laughter rose, a ghostly crescendo swirling around them, pouring dread like poison into their minds. "What do they want?" Emma asked, her voice barely a breath, shaking with raw vulnerability. Sarah felt her heart crack. "Don't let them take us." They want us to believe," Sarah whispered back, focusing on her children. She had to stay strong. But their fear pressed down on her like the heavy air before a storm, and she could feel that resolve beginning to waver. One of the figures stepped forward, bold against the encroaching night, its features sharper now. "We know your sorrow, Sarah," it spoke, the voice sweet like honey but laced with thorns. "We carry your pain. We can free you from your burden, if you join us." "No!" she hissed, shaking her head. "You're lying." Only a step away from peace, it insisted, gliding closer. You wish to protect your children. We can help you reclaim what has been lost. What will you do when you're outnumbered? When darkness gathers? A shiver crept up Sarah's spine. Each word dripped with a twisted understanding, as if they knew her every thought, every crack in her facade. I won't. I won't let you win. Fight all you want, laughed another figure, spinning around to dance with the shadows, but your fear gives us power. You're already entwined, just as we are bound to this forest. Caleb's face paled, and Sarah clutched them closer. We need to go, now. She urged, her mind racing. But every instinct screamed at her to trust the untamed whispers of time. The deeper roots of fear tangled around hope. What if they were right? As she wrestled with herself, the shadows edged in. The thudding of her heart a terrifying counterpoint to the whispers. The night pulsed around them, rippling with energy, and in the air set a storm of desperation. She felt it encroaching, the choice looming: confront the horrific truth or succumb to it. Mom Emma sniffed, her eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. I know, Sarah said, breath hitching. But we have to be strong. No matter what, do not let go of my hand. Sarah, a voice called from the shadows, far too familiar. A figure stepped forward, and Sarah's breath stopped short. It was her sister lost so long ago, consumed by secrets of her own. Join us, dear sister. You have the power, and it's time to embrace what you've always denied. Let me show you. The pull was magnetic, the darkness swirling with promise and danger. The faces around her floated closer, expectant, eyes ablaze with unnerving allure. What are you doing here? Sarah croaked, struggling to keep her voice steady. You're not real. Real enough to deliver you from your fears, her sister's voice lilted, threading through the palpable tension. Don't listen. Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. The darkness stirred, filling the hollow with a smothering heat, remorseless and predatory. Embrace what you've become, the chorus murmured, echoed by the wind. Their intentions wrapped tightly around her, coaxing like venom into her ears. Caleb whimpered, Mom, please. And in that moment, reality twisted, and she felt every decision she had made driving toward this apex. Were they here and now or just figments haunting her mind? Would she find solace in the masks of pain or unravel the knots of shadow biting at their heels? Strength surged within her, battling against despair. We're leaving! She yelled, but just as she turned back to escape, the ground trembled again, and the shadow surged with a sudden, monstrous hunger. She realized it wasn't merely darkness they had to confront, but secrets buried deep within themselves. Yet, was it already too late? Let the night guide you, sister, her voice echoed, and in the swirling backdrop of torment, the horrifying truth dawned on Sarah. What if this was all part of a much darker game? An eerie stillness settled as she took a hesitant step towards the light, hand gripping her children tighter. The true question lingered: what awaited them beyond the tree line? The ground shook beneath them, a low, ominous rumble that sent ripples through the dark forest. Sarah's breath quickened, fear clawing at her throat. The shadows were alive, swirling, laughing. Stay close, she ordered, her voice breaking as she tightened her grip around Emma and Caleb. They clung to her as if she were their last lifeline, their small bodies trembling against her. Mom, I don't want to go down there. Emma's voice was thin and pleading, small against the backdrop of chaos. Sarah looked toward the path ahead, a treacherous mix of shadow and flickering light. We have to get out of here. We can't let them get us. But even as she spoke, doubt prickled at her. How far could they run? The figures were now a mere step away. You've always run, her sister's voice echoed through the darkness, sing-song and seductive. What do you think will stop you this time? In one swift motion, Sarah turned to confront her phantom of a sister, the familiarity freezing her in place. You don't belong here. You're not her. The words fought to escape, but they caught in her throat like nails. Do you really think I'm not real? Her sister laughed, a sound that was too light for the weight of her words. I'm as real as you let me be. Something about that struck a chord within Sarah. What horrors lay behind those twisted smiles? What truths were buried beneath that honeyed voice? "Let my sister show you," another figure urged, stepping forth, a man, face rugged and dark. "You've hidden for so long, Sarah. It's time to embrace the darkness within." The air thickened, pulling her into the unsettling embrace of their promises. "Just step forward and let us help you." It was a chant now, the whispering growing louder, an invitation soaked in dread. Each syllable squeezed tighter around her heart. "No," she gasped. "I'm not afraid of you. You can't have us." At that moment, the shadows recoiled, screeching with frustration. The ground erupted in a burst of jagged roots, snaking around her ankles, rooting her in place. "Caleb! Emma!" she shouted, panic dawning in her chest. "Mom! Help!" Caleb cried, his small voice mingling with the cacophony of laughter. Shattering through a wall of fear, Sarah fought against the roots, clawing at the darkened soil. She could see her children being tugged a step closer to the figures, a horrifying tug-of-war playing out before her eyes. "Keep fighting!" she screamed, yet her voice felt swallowed whole by the malevolence around them. "No one escapes the forest." The words dripped from her sister like poison, each syllable carving deeper into Sarah's heart. The truth of the depth of lies they spun left an imprint of dread. "But don't you want freedom? You can join us. Together, we can bury the pain." The tug intensified, but so did Sarah's instinct to shield her children. "You're wrong. I've fought for them," she cried back, pulling desperately. The shadows writhed and screeched, enraged by her refusal, but then she hesitated, the seductive pull of her sister's smile causing her mind to falter. Maybe they can be free too. It flickered briefly, a worm of doubt wriggling into her mind. "Join us, sister." The throaty whispers egged her on, mingling with her desperation. The forest trembled with life, the shadows twisting around her, calling to the dark corners of her heart. "I want tea," she willed herself to shout. Yet, the lust for peace hung heavy in the air. What if they were free? A part of her ached for rest. "Then let the darkness consume you." The figures lunged in a wave, hunger evident in their hollow eyes. A rush of raw, visceral energy ignited within her as the very ground beneath them seemed to hum with tension. In that fleeting moment, she had a decision to make. She could feel the warmth of her children next to her, and it anchored her. "We would rather be lost than join you," she declared, courage surging against the tide of darkness, but just as the pull returned, the darkness rolling in with a vengeance, the realization hit like ice through her veins. The forest wasn't just a place. It was a being, alive with malice, and just as she screamed for her children to run, the earth below split open, revealing a rift of blinding light and screaming shadows. Had she chosen, or had she inadvertently set them up for something worse? As they stumbled back, her heart thundering in her chest, Sarah's eyes fell on Caleb. Their eyes locked, panic transcending words, but it was too late. The darkness surged, dragging them closer to the abyss. "Mom!" Emma screamed, betraying an unspeakable terror, and just like that, Sarah realized, she was not just fighting for her children. She was fighting against the very truth they were all entangled in, a truth that could end them all. "Run!" she shouted into the chaos. But the darkness snickered back, a bitter reminder that sometimes running only deepened the shadows. What truth did they fear most? What had they missed in all their fleeing? Little did they know, the answer was already waiting in the dark, ready to unfold. Will they make it out alive, or will the forest claim its next victims? The rift widened, its edges crackling with a blinding light that contrasted sharply against the consuming darkness. Hooks of shadow reached for them, tendrils snaking around their legs, but Sarah's heart raced stronger than ever. She fought back, wrenching her children close, their small bodies pressed against her as she tried to conjure a path through the chaos. "Hold my hand!" she yelled, gripping Caleb and Emma, her voice trembling yet determined. The shadows writhed, a furious tide eager to claim them, but she thrust herself forward, ready to leap over the abyss. The ground beneath them quaked again, a sickening groan echoing through the forest. With each beat of her heart, Sarah felt the atmosphere shift. The very trees seemed to lean closer, the branches twisting into grotesque shapes, beckoning and mocking. "Don't look back!" she urged, forcing herself to take the lead, pushing through the screaming dark. The figures were only a breath away, their eyes two glowing orbs of hunger. "Come to us," her sister's voice teased, rich with malice yet laced with an unsettling familiarity. "Join us in eternal peace." "No!" Sarah screamed, her own desperation flaring. "You're not real." Yet, her footsteps faltered as doubt slithered its way back into her mind. What would it genuinely mean to be free? The thought hung heavily in the air, like a poisonous fog. Suddenly, the ground erupted again, roots bursting forth, grasping and pulling them down. Sarah fought against the dark vines grasping at her, but the shadows were relentless. They clawed at her skin, tearing at her resolve. Emma's whimper broke through the chaos, and Sarah felt anew the sickening dread of losing them. "Caleb," she called, panic bursting forth. "I need you to fight." She could see the sweat beading on his forehead, horror dancing in his wide eyes. "We can't let them win." "Mom!" Caleb shouted, his voice a strident panicked plea. "What do we do?" But even as he spoke, the forest grunted and shifted like a living beast, pushing against their resolve. "We trust each other." She gripped their hands tighter, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Together." But as they stumbled forward, an unholy laughter started to rise from the depths of the darkness, engulfing her. "Together?" The man's voice crawled into her mind. "What a foolish notion, Sarah. You can't escape. Join us, and your pain will end." "No." The word was a raw, primal scream as she felt the earth shift beneath her feet, pulling her closer to the yawning rift. "Get away from us." As they lurched back, the ground roiled again, but she was deeply rooted in a single thought: the children. "We have to go to the light." Her gaze fell on the distant blaze radiating blinding energy. The shadows seemed to shriek in rage, their whispers turning into furious howls. Somehow, amidst the chaos, she saw it, the note of golden light, crackling and inviting, glowing as if it had been waiting for them. "Emma! Caleb! Focus on the light. We can do this." Drawing on every ounce of courage, she propelled them forward, eyes locked onto the shimmering beacon. But as they moved, the darkness lunged again, anger unwavering. It felt like a beast was snapping at their heels. The twisted laughter escalated, molten fear coursing through her veins. "That light will consume you," her sister screeched, her voice morphing into an anguished wail. "You'll never know true power unless you submit." "Shut up!" Sarah barked, pulling her children closer as the world blurred around them, rage and fear melding into a singular focus. But was she right to reject the offers of her sister? What if, in making this choice, she was sealing their fate? As they hurtled toward the light, a hand clutched her shoulder suddenly, icy and despairing. It felt like a whisper of the afterlife, pulling her back into the void. She turned, heart pounding as she caught a glimpse her sister's face twisted in a ghoulish smile, an outstretched arm beckoning her to join the shadows. "Bear witness." The figure crooned, desire threaded with malevolence. And for just a moment, everything froze. The forest held its breath, and in that fractured silence, Sarah understood the cost of her choice. Would the light draw them in, or would the forest take them forever? As she faced the glowing chaos, one truth spiraled in her mind: there was no escape without a sacrifice. But who would pay the price? The thought echoed, harsher than any shadow that pursued them. "Keep running." And with that, they plunged into the brightness, unaware of what awaited them on the other side. What darkness awaited them beyond the threshold, and who would truly emerge alive? The light enveloped them, an intoxicating blend of warmth and brightness, contrasting heavily against the shadows that hissed and shrieked. For a heartbeat, Sarah thought they might truly escape. But as the beam surrounded them, the intensity twisted and clawed, tugging at her very essence. "Hold on!" she gasped, squeezing the hands of her children. Emma's grip was weak, trembling. Sarah could feel her daughter's panic creep through their connection, an icy shiver down her spine. "Mom, I'm scared." Emma whimpered, her voice hardly above a breath. "Me too, sweetheart. Just trust me." But in her heart, doubt gnawed at her like a relentless parasite. Was this light another trick? Or a way into something worse? The moments stretched on, eternity hidden in an instant. Just as they felt they might gel with the radiance, it pulsed violently, casting shadows that danced around them like a wicked serenade. The warmth flickered, shifting to an oppressive heat that threatened to smother. "Run faster!" Sarah barked, her voice cutting through the panic like a knife. The trio surged forward, propelled by instinct and a primal will to live. But the rift was a living entity, writhing as it tried to reclaim its lost prey. "You can't leave!" It howled, echoing around them with venomous rage. The whispers crescendoed into a maddening symphony of despair. Their feet found purchase on ground that felt more real, but it shifted with every step. "Look!" Caleb shouted, pointing. The golden light illuminated a sprawling landscape that seemed both mesmerizing and grotesque. The moment they crossed into the new realm, the shadows receded, but the jubilant laughter of otherworldly beings threaded through the air. It wrapped around them, enveloping them with a disquieting sense of welcome. A gathering emerged from the mist, figures cloaked in layers of white and gray, their features obscured, yet their intentions were sharp like fangs. "You've come, brave ones," a voice echoed, smooth as silk yet choked with dark undercurrents. "To gift us what we desire." "Who are you?" Sarah stepped instinctively in front of her children, her heart thumping like a war drum. "They are our sacrifices," another voice chimed, sweet and sickly, as if coated in honey. "You sought the light, and now it leads you to us. Join our circle, and you may yet preserve your bonds." "No! Get away from us!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline surging as she pulled Caleb and Emma closer. But the figures moved closer, their hands outstretched, beckoning. "Come, don't fear what lies ahead. There's peace here, an end to your suffering." The shadows behind them withdrew completely, leaving only the echoes of twisted whispers, teasing and taunting. "Sarah, your sister is waiting for you. Think of the life outside. Wouldn't it be easier?" "I know what you want." Sarah gritted her teeth, determination crash landing into acceptance. "If you're real, then prove it. Before I give you anything, let me see her. Let me see my sister." A low murmur rippled through the gathered figures. Then, at the edge of their circle, a figure emerged, her sister, eyes gleaming like obsidian, framed by an ethereal glow. "Sarah! You were meant to be here." "Lies!" Sarah shouted, breath ragged, but curiosity mingled with horror. The moment was a duet of fear and hope, threatening to unravel everything she held dear. "Join us!" Her sister's voice coiled around Sarah like ivy, creeping into her thoughts. "Together, we will reign. You'll never have to fear anything again." The air thickened with anticipation, and Sarah's heart raced uncontrollably. She felt it then, a terrible weight of the choice pressing down upon her, suffocating. But with each heartbeat, the reality danced dangerously close. What if, in her desperate attempt to save her children, she unwittingly sealed their doom? "Mom?" Caleb's voice broke through the thick fog wrapping around her mind. "What do we do now?" As the figures closed in, the gleam of her sister's smile split the darkness, revealing a truth as unwelcome as it was inevitable. The battle was just beginning, but what they truly faced loomed from within the rift they had escaped. Would sacrifice become their salvation or their doom? The question hung in the air as the ground beneath them pulsed, ready to give way once more. The circle tightened around them, pressing in like a vice. Shadows twitched and fluttered, teasing at the corners of Sarah's vision. It felt wrong, every instinct screamed for her to flee. But her sister's words echoed in her mind, a haunting melody that lulled her deeper into dread. "Join us!" a chorus now, the figures sang in unison, voices blending in a grotesque harmony that twisted Sarah's resolve. "We are family here." "Family?" Sarah spat, rage igniting her trembling hands. "You're not my family. You're nothing but monsters." Caleb clung tightly to her leg, fear radiating off him. Emma pressed against her side, eyes wide, reflecting the swirling chaos. "Mom, they're scaring me." Emma whimpered, her small frame trembling. The otherworldly laughter grew louder, drowning out her daughter's cries. "Fear is what binds us," her sister crooned, gliding forward, incandescent. The shadow shifted to make way, illuminating the hint of fangs behind her smile. You're so close, Sarah. So close to the truth. The dark gifts we offer can save you. A restless fog clawed its way into Sarah's lungs, saturating the air with a pungent bitterness. Panic tightened her throat. Emma! Caleb! Hold on to me! She shouted, inexplicably aware of her gradual descent into their trap. All around, the figures swirled, their cloaks weaving intricate patterns that entwined like snakes. Let us in, Sarah. Take the step. Only you can lead your children to safety. Safety is a lie, Sarah hissed, pushing back against the dread creeping into her veins. I won't believe you. The circle pulsated, the ground quaking, and for a moment, reality slipped. She saw flashes, terrifying glimpses of the world beyond, the veil, dead eyes staring back, souls forever lost, imprisoned by promises of power. See? Her sister pointed, her voice a silken whisper, beckoning curiosity. See what you can have, what we can become. Suddenly, a sharp scream tore through the air, discordant against the sickly sweet harmony. It cut through the fog of temptation like glass, raw and desperate. The figures halted, confusion electrifying the atmosphere, folded tightly around Sarah and her children. What was that? Caleb asked, trembling under the sudden weight of new terror. An old debt, one of the figures replied with a smirk, that must be repaid, so many have come before you. Sisterly warmth in her sister's gaze flickered, revealing something darker and more bone-chilling than Sarah could understand. The weight of her past settled heavily on her chest. You can't drown in our light and expect to breathe, the voice echoed, that sing-song lilt now warped into a venomous rasp. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted violently. The figures recoiled, their long limbs retracting as though struck. The ground beneath them splintered, breaking apart with a deafening crack. Run! Sarah shouted, instinct clashing with her fixed gaze. We have to go now. Another scream echoed, now closer, churning back through the shadows. Rigorous darkness clawed at her heels, snapping like jaws hungry for flesh. Mom, wait! Emma screamed, trying futilely to get near. Sarah twisted, lunging backward to snatch her daughter just as the light seared into a blinding flash. Pausing only to cradle her children against her heartbeat, she sprinted into the depths of the gathering shadows, desperation fueling each stride. But as they ran, that horrid laughter swelled behind them, twisting into a shriek of anguish that pierced their ears. Figures chased, relentless and insatiable, their promises hanging on the air like acrid smoke. The laughter melted into whispers that echoed in her mind, you cannot escape. You belong to us now. As they stumbled deeper into the gloom, faintly illuminated shapes loomed nearby, hacking through the darkness as shadows morphed into endearing visages, faces they recognized but dared not look at a second time. Tears streaked down Emma's cheeks. Caleb, breathing fast, gripped Sarah's hand tighter, but a sickening dread took her. Help us! Emma yelled toward a familiar silhouette, her voice trembling with innocence. Emma, no! Sarah! Shouted, suddenly terrified that just calling out would doom them. In that moment, she understood the price. What awaited them was a banquet of nightmares far worse than anything she had ever imagined. They ran harder, hearts hammering, panicking as shadows reached for them, wrapping tightly like chains. Before her lay a choice, a flicker of hope, or the darkness that would drown them all. Sacrifice? It was looming. Would she pay it? Would it save her family, or consume them whole? The question hung heavily above as they raced blindly into the abyss, moving toward an uncertain fate. Would her love plunge them into a darkness they could never escape, or ignite the spark of deferred salvation? The air thickened around them as they raced into the blackness. Each footfall echoed a desperate rhythm, quick and shallow. Shadows flicked back and forth like frightened animals, creeping behind them. Sarah's heart pounded, a relentless drum urging her to move faster. She could sense the malicious energy building behind them, an ancient force chasing after the warmth of their flesh. Mom! I can't run anymore. Caleb whimpered, fatigue gripping him like a vice. The boy's voice cracked, thin and threadbare, barely cutting through the cacophony of whispers clawing at Sarah's mind. What if they catch us? Just a little further, I promise. Her voice came out more frantic than reassuring. She fought to keep the terror out of her tone, squeezing Caleb's palm tighter to bolster his resolve. Emma moved fluidly beside them, her small feet pounding hard against the brittle earth, eyes darting as though they could see the encroaching darkness itself behind them. The laughter morphed into frantic wails, a sound that wrapped around Sarah's thoughts, a chilling reminder of her sister's words. Join us. It was a guttural chant, morphing into something that made her stomach turn, filled with hungriness, a longing for everything one should fear. They veered sharply left, into an opening, the trees thinning to reveal an old stone structure partially swallowed by the earth. The walls were crumbling but stood defiantly against the encroaching night. "Quick! In there!" Sarah shouted, urgency pushing her forward. As they dove into the sanctuary, shadows slithered around them, flickering like dying flames. The coldness inside enveloped them, and for a moment, panic faded as the outside noise dimmed. They were in a narrow corridor, lined with cracked tapestries and decaying paintings, that looked like they had once told stories of families gathered in feasts, now ominous reminders of what could be. Breathing heavily, Sarah led the way down the hall, but with each step they took, something felt wrong. One wall bore deep scratches, claw marks that resonated with the whispers echoing in her ears. The ground pulsed beneath them, as if the structure itself was alive, a heart, beating with the specters of those who had come before. "Mom, I don't like this place." Emma's tiny voice broke through the heavy silence. "Neither do I, but we have to find a way out." Before they could take another step, the shadows thickened, coalescing into shapes that flickered into solidity, blocking their exit. Faces distorted in agony, trapped by despair, filled the darkness, each one a haunting echo of eyes that had seen unspeakable horrors. Caleb's grip tightened like a vice, and Sarah quickly glanced down to reassure him, but there was no comfort in her heart. "Welcome back," a voice purred from the recesses of the shadows. It was sharp and sweet, just like her sister's. "Did you miss us?" "No!" Sarah screamed, her voice shaking the very stones. "Leave us alone." But with each cry, the weight of the shadows increased, a palpable energy pushing against them, testing their resolve. Desperation ignited within her, and she turned to face the spectral faces that twisted in mockery. "Why do you haunt us? What do you want?" She shouted at the collective, fury giving her strength. Suddenly, a figure stepped forward from the blackness, sleek and overwhelming. "We want you to know there's a price. Join us and embrace your legacy. Resist, and feel the pain of those who came before you." The world around Sarah melted into a swirl of chaos, the shadows thickening, each whisper growing more insistent, invasive. "Your sister knows the way. Let her guide you in." "Oh!" Sarah shrieked, clenching her fists. The figures pressed in tighter, hands outstretched, beckoning, hearts racing. Just as the laughter tried to drown her again, a horrifying thought struck her. Her sister, that enchanting call lingering over the years, hadn't just abandoned her family, she had become what they feared. In the depths of that revelation, panic surged anew. "Caleb! Emma!" she shouted, fresh resolve igniting within her. "We need to run. Now!" She turned back to the shadows, fury battling despair as they prepared to break free of their psychic grasp, but a jagged edge of darkness flared suddenly, slicing at her. Would it pull her under for good? Running had become something more than mere survival. It was a race against bloodlines and curses, against promises sealed with old sins. As they plunged deeper into the heart of the darkness, a new realization dawned. What if they couldn't escape the sins of her sister's legacy? Would the dawn ever arrive after this horrific night? And then, something ahead flickered, a flicker of light, mundane, and yet so alluring in the clutch of shadows. Was it a trap? Or the salvation they so desperately sought? Sarah paused, heart hammering, poised on the precipice of decision. Would she reach for the light, or embrace the darkness? The choice loomed ahead, bright and blurry, like hope lost in terror. As Sarah felt the pulse of darkness close in around them, a flicker of that distant light twisted her resolve. She grasped Caleb and Emma's hands, pulling them closer, drawing strength from their warmth. A quiet determination surged within her, raw and electric. "We can't let them win. Not now." Instinctively, she turned toward that beckoning glow, her heart hammering with both fear and hope. "We can make it," she urged, leading her children deeper into the unknown, pushing through the thrumming shadows. The cries of the figures behind them faded slightly, mere whispers on the edge of her consciousness. "Stay with me. We're almost there." Her voice rang out, fierce and protective as they sprinted down the crumbling corridor. The shadows writhed like angry serpents, but with each step, Sarah felt the light's warmth growing, a balm against the nightmares. The oppressive atmosphere thickened, but she focused on that distant radiance like a lighthouse guiding lost sailors home. "Mom! They're coming!" Caleb's voice quivered, but her grip on him tightened. "Trust me. I won't let them take you." As they neared the flickering brightness, the corridor opened into a vast, cavernous space awash with shimmering light, an ethereal realm, filled with cascading golden rays that danced like liquid sunshine. The spectral faces that had haunted them faded into the backs of her mind, consumed by the brilliance. In that moment, she gathered every ounce of courage and pushed forward, the children in tow. The light enveloped them like a warm embrace, brushing through their fear. It felt safe and inviting, it hummed with a gentle promise of renewal. "Mom, do you think we're safe now?" Emma's small voice broke through, filled with uncertainty. "We're safe," Sarah assured, though her heart raced with the weight of the unknown. "Together." But as they stepped fully into the luminous space, a figure emerged, stepping into the glow, her sister. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. There was no mistaking the piercing eyes and that familiar smile, though now it held a haunting sadness. "You've finally come, Sarah. You've brought the children. We can be a family again." "No." Sarah's voice sliced through the air, powerful and defiant. "You're not my sister anymore. You've become something darker. Something that hurts others." The glow flickered, uncertainty creeping in, but Sarah held tight to her children. "You chose this path, and I won't follow you into it." A shadow of confusion darted across her sister's face, but suddenly, the figures began to swirl around as if they had become enraged. "You will regret this," they hissed, their words a threatening hiss laced with wretchedness. "What do you want?" Sarah shouted, her heart aching with the weight of their twisted fates. The figures shifted closer, their faces writhing with anguish and desires, echoes of dreams unfulfilled. "We want you to join us, to understand the burden of choice you've rejected." "It could be so easy, Sarah." "No!" she screamed, shaking her head furiously. "I won't let you take us. You're nothing but empty promises." With a sudden rush, the shadows pressed in, claws of cold terror reaching for her. The flickering light flared, growing brighter, and in that moment, she felt the ties that bound her to this wretched fate loosening. "Hold on, kids!" Sarah shouted, as she pulled them closer and stepped back toward the borders of that light, not retreating in fear but forging onward with newfound strength. "Together!" she echoed, determination pulsing through her veins, and in that instant, she understood their true legacy was not one of darkness, but defiance, an unyielding bond against the horrors of bloodlines. The warmth surged around them, beacons against the darkness that surged, trying to reclaim them, igniting fires within the shadows. She could feel it, the swell of hope igniting resolutely in her heart. They broke free from the swarming grasp. Light exploded around them, cracking like thunder, a rapturous sound that drowned the shadows' screams, and as blinding brightness filled the cavern, Sarah reached for the light with her children, souls intertwined, hearts ablaze with fervor, with one final scream that shook the very core of her being. "You are not my ending." Sarah propelled them into the light, feeling the shadows dissipate, the cries of anguish transformed, fading, and then, silence. When they emerged from the light, fresh air filled their lungs, and the familiar heavy scent of earth surged around them. They were outside, in the stillness of the forest, the night sky peppered with stars. "We did it!" Emma breathed, looking up with wonder. Sarah sank to her knees, pulling her children close, tears blurring her vision. "We're free!" They embraced under that starlit sky where shadows no longer slithered and hope blossomed anew. They were bound by love, not darkness. And as they sat in that cradle of safety, she felt the last tendrils of fear slipping away, replaced with gratitude for each moment. Life, in all its forms, had room to breathe again. Now the echoes of what they fought against lingered in her mind but glimmered with a different light. A light that reminded her strength lies in facing the truth of oneself, whether it's cloaked in darkness or illuminated by stars. In the silent woods surrounding Maplewood, Sarah and her children shared quiet sounds of laughter, precious moments now untangled from shadows. Together, they were the hope illuminating the night. Don't let these moments slip away. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss a single thread of this journey. There is more coming your way. Smash that like button now to show your support and keep this story alive in the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on this thrilling conclusion. What did you think about Sarah's fight? And make sure to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to catch the excitement of this resolution. The time to act is now. Don't wait even one more second. The adventure continues, and you won't want to miss it.